Thank you for joining us around the fire. For more information or to make a donation, please visit randomactsnetwork.com. Now, want to hear a scary story? The deserted parking lot of Haddington High shimmered under the large moon hazily hanging in the night sky. 18-year-old Casey, a senior on the Palm Squad, had stayed late after a basketball game to organize the team's supply closet. She could still feel the electricity of the game and hear the sounds of the buzzer echoing in her ears, along with the laughter of her friends and the music of their routines. It had been a great night, and now Casey was exhausted and eager for sleep. It was a humid evening with the smell of wet earth saturating the breeze, and Casey cracked her window as she pulled out onto the main road. There hadn't been anyone else in the parking lot or any other car lights in her view, but just at the moment after she started driving, she saw a pair of headlights appear from seemingly nowhere and begin heading in the same direction. As the vehicle behind her passed under a streetlight, she could just make out the form of a red pickup truck. She figured it was someone else heading home late from the game, but couldn't ignore how strange it made her feel. She turned on some music and hummed along with it for a few minutes, hoping to see the headlights behind her turn off onto a side road, but still, the truck continued a few hundred feet behind her. She passed a speed limit sign, 45 miles per hour, and considered trying to add some distance between them. As her foot pressed the gas pedal closer to the floor, Casey's car accelerated to 55 miles per hour, and she felt a bit of relief as the glowing orbs of the pickup's headlights shrank behind her. But then, they started growing again, larger and larger, as the pickup matched and then exceeded her speed, slowly but surely diminishing the distance between them. "What the hell?" Casey muttered. As she crested a small hill, her headlights found another car a few hundred yards ahead of her. She pressed the gas pedal down further, reaching 60 miles per hour, and quickly pulled into the oncoming lane without signaling. Whipping around the car in front of her, Casey returned to her lane, satisfied with herself. It was probably nothing, she thought, but still, she felt a little better knowing that there was another car between her and that red pickup truck. But only a minute later, the car between them turned away, and Casey felt an immediate wave of discomfort as the headlights of the pickup glowed in her rearview mirror. The truck gained on her, now only a few yards back, and suddenly the driver turned their high beams on. Casey's mirrors lit up as the entire car flooded with blinding light. "What the hell?" she cried as she squinted and gripped the wheel. The high beams remained on for what felt like an eternity before finally switching off, leaving her vision dotted with spots. Confused and disoriented, Casey tried to remember if she knew anyone with a red pickup. She thought her friend Kendra may have dated some guy who drove one of those. Maybe this was just a stupid prank. Casey turned up the volume of the radio, trying to concentrate on the music, but it was pointless. She couldn't look away from those headlights in her mirror, sticking to her like fresh snow in a blizzard. Casey knew that she'd have to find a way to lose the other driver before they approached the isolated property of her family's farmhouse. "Turn, damn it," she muttered angrily to the pickup's reflection. "Please just turn off somewhere." But the haunting shadow of the truck loomed behind her with each passing mile. Casey white-knuckled the steering wheel as she neared the seldom-traveled back road that led home. The road led only to Casey's farm and a few others, and she was certain the pickup didn't belong to one of her neighbors. There was no way the pickup would have any reason to take that turn behind her. Without using her blinker, Casey careened around the turn onto the gravel road at nearly 30 miles per hour, coming dangerously close to flipping the car in hopes the truck would be forced to continue on straight down the main road. But the unrelenting shadow followed her still, slamming on its brakes and whipping violently around the bend to keep pace with Casey's car. "Fuck, no!" she screamed. Casey pressed the pedal flat to the floor, tossing gravel into the air behind her like a hailstorm as she accelerated in her little blue sedan. The trees morphed into blurry ghosts as she tore through the darkness, desperately trying to outpace the mysterious truck. Then, the high beams flashed on again, their searing light filling the cabin of Casey's car, clouding her view through the windshield. "Leave me alone!" Casey cried out, finally giving in to the panic and releasing a waterfall of tears. The high beams remained on for a minute, then turned off, but only for a second. Then they lit up again, lingering for a moment, and then went off. The pickup driver was taunting her. Casey's mind raced, and she pushed the car faster still, the engine growling beneath her as the tires struggled to grip the rocky road. But no matter how fast she went, the truck followed, its phantom driver hidden behind those blinding high beams. With a final desperate surge of speed, Emily's blue sedan veered into her driveway, sending a cloud of dust into the night sky as the tires skid. The red pickup careened in right behind her. Casey screamed as she stumbled out of her car and sprinted towards the farmhouse. The soft glow of the porch light struck out from the blue and black shadows of the surrounding country. "Dad!" Casey screamed. "Help me! Call the police!" She glanced back at the truck and was horrified to see the shape of a large man exit from the driver's side door. He was armed with something, a long and heavy crowbar. Suddenly, the front door of the farmhouse whipped open and the confused forms of Casey's mother and father appeared on the dim porch. "What the hell is going on?" her father yelled. Then he noticed the strange man in the driveway and puffed up his chest, bellowing, "Who the hell are you?" Casey dove into her mother's arms, unable to form any words as she wept and gasped for air. The stranger was screaming something and pointing at Casey's car. She watched as her father approached the man who kept shouting the same words over and over. "There's someone in the back of your car!" The stranger stepped towards Casey's vehicle, but her father commanded him to stay back. She watched as he approached the car apprehensively, finally yanking open one of the rear doors. Everything around her seemed to crumble as Casey watched her father pull a man from the back seat by his ankles. The figure wore all black and a face mask. In his hand, he clutched a large knife. The moment his body connected with the driveway, the stranger snarled and lunged from the ground. "Watch out!" Casey screamed. Her mother attempted to push her inside of the house, but she couldn't leave her father out there. She watched as he dodged the assault, but the maniac with the knife lunged forward again, his blade shimmering in the light of the moon as it snagged a slice across her father's right arm. He cried out in pain and stumbled backwards away from the attacker. At last, the pickup truck driver swung his crowbar and smashed it against the man's skull with a sickening crunch. He instantly crumpled to the ground like a discarded doll, and the truck driver dropped the tool into the dirt, taking a few steps back and placing his hands on his head. "Good God," Casey's father breathed, picking up the fallen knife. Is he dead?" Casey asked, her voice shaking. "Just passed out, I think," the truck driver replied, his eyes lingering on the prone figure. "Y'all able to call the authorities?" "They should be here any time," Casey's mother said as she returned to the porch from inside. She handed the pickup driver a glass of water and started dabbing at her husband's wound with a warm towel. After draining the glass and wiping his brow, the driver leaned against the side of Casey's car and looked up at the moon. "I couldn't believe it," he said. "I saw him slip into your car from across the lot before you left the school." He cleared his throat, trying to salvage his hoarse voice. "I knew I couldn't stop you in time, so I just followed. I don't know what the hell he planned to do," he said. "But every time I saw him start to get up from the back seat, I turned on my high beams. Made him drop back down." Casey couldn't believe how close she'd come to catastrophe. Why hadn't she locked the car during the game? How could she have failed to notice the sounds, the smells of a stranger in her space? "Thank you," she whispered with tears in her eyes. "I think you saved my life." "Don't mention it," he said. "Anyone else would do the same." But Casey knew that wasn't true. Most people would simply look the other way, pretending they didn't see anything at all. But this man had been her hero, her guardian angel in a red pickup truck, sent by the universe to guide her safely home.